Archaeologists expected a burial chamber. Instead, they found a structure aligned to a vanished star, and no one buried inside. In 1933, while mapping the barren plateau of western Sudan's Bayuda Desert, a British-Sudanese expedition uncovered a lone stone chamber half buried in dunes. The structure was small, weathered by centuries of sandstorms, yet its doorway was adorned with finely carved Nubian symbols, an unmistakable sign of a royal or ritual burial. Expecting a tomb, the team broke the seal, stepped inside, and found nothing. No bones, no coffin, no offerings, only a carved stone slab at the center of the chamber, marked by a single incised symbol, a circle split by a vertical line. Perplexed, archaeologists examined the chamber more closely. Despite its emptiness, the walls were engraved with texts in Old Nubian, mixed with an unknown script. Some passages referenced a figure called the One Who Walked Between Suns, a title never seen in any Kushite or Meroitic inscription. Others described a journey beyond the River of Night, possibly referring to the Milky Way, an idea echoed in ancient Saharan star lore. Carbon dating of soot on the ceiling dated the chamber's last use to around 500 CE, long after the fall of the Kingdom of Kush. But what startled researchers most was a set of footprints pressed into the hardened clay floor. They were shallow but well-preserved, belonging to at least 3 individuals who entered the tomb centuries ago. The prints circled the central slab, then led back toward the entrance. None approached the walls, and none indicated that anything had been placed or removed from the chamber. The slab itself proved even stranger. When lifted, researchers found a small cavity containing nothing but fine desert sand from a region nearly 600 kilometers away. Why transport sand into a tomb for no body? Why carve a royal facade for an empty chamber? And why include inscriptions mixing references to stars, underworld rivers, and a journey that seems more cosmic than funerary? Some scholars argue it was a cenotaph, a symbolic tomb for a leader who died far from home. Others suggest it was a ritual site for a vanished sect whose beliefs blended astronomy with mortuary rites. Local oral traditions speak of a king who returned to the sky, a tale dismissed as myth, but strangely aligned with the chamber's celestial carvings. Perhaps the tomb was never meant to hold a body. Perhaps it was built to mark a passage, not of remains, but of someone believed to have left this world in another way. Hi. Deep inside the pyramid, a narrow shaft points to a star missing from medieval records. At one moment in Earth's long wobble, that chamber once filled with light. In 1872, British engineer Weinman Dixon lowered a lamp into a narrow opening within the Great Pyramids, Queen's Chamber, and discovered 2 channels unlike anything in Egyptian architecture. They were too small for a person to crawl through, yet too carefully aligned to be accidental. For decades, their purpose remained unknown, until modern robotics entered the pyramid. In 1993, a remote camera built by German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink crept through the southern shaft. After nearly 200 feet, it stopped before a small limestone block fitted with copper pins, an enigmatic door, sealed since the time of Khufu. When the shaft's angle was analyzed, astronomers made a startling discovery. The tunnel aligned with Alnitak, the leftmost star of Orion's belt, exactly as it appeared in 2500 BCE. But the northern shaft revealed an even deeper mystery. Its angle pointed not to a star familiar to medieval astronomers, but to one whose significance had been lost for over 1,000 years. Thuban, the ancient pole star. In Khufu's era, Thuban sat almost precisely above Earth's north rotational axis, a position it surrendered as the heavens slowly shifted through axial precession. By the Middle Ages, Thuban had drifted far from the pole, its ancient role erased from collective memory. Only modern astronomical calculations restored its importance. The Egyptians, however, had engineered a channel of stone that recorded its place in the sky with breathtaking accuracy. The shaft was not a vent, nor a symbolic passage. It was a frozen line of sight to a star the world later forgot. When a second robotic mission breached the small limestone door in 2002, it revealed another chamber beyond, its purpose still unknown. Some researchers believe these shafts were part of a celestial blueprint, guiding the king's soul toward specific stars. Others argue they were observational tools marking the heavens during Egypt's Old Kingdom. Yet one truth is certain. the pyramid preserved astronomical knowledge that vanished from human memory for millennia. Perhaps it whispered not to the dead, but to the future, waiting for someone who could read the sky as the ancients once did. An ancient observatory predicted a solar eclipse with precision modern astronomy, only rediscovered thousands of years later. In 1907, archaeologist José García Payón surveyed a remote hilltop in southern Mexico known locally as Cerro del Cielo, the Hill of the Sky. At its summit stood a ring of carved basalt pillars arranged in a near-perfect circle. At first, the site was catalogued as a ceremonial platform of the pre-classic era. Only decades later did researchers realize they were looking at something far more precise. Each pillar cast a shadow that aligned with specific solar and lunar positions, forming an ancient observatory older than many Maya cities. When astronomers reconstructed the alignments, they made an astonishing discovery. The pillars marked not just solstices and equinoxes, but the lunar standstill cycle, a phenomenon occurring only once every 18.6 years. Understanding it requires years of continuous observation, yet the layout proved the builders had mastered it. But one alignment defied explanation. A narrow sightline formed by two eastern pillars pointed to a celestial event that should have been impossible for its time. A solar eclipse recorded on a date when no eclipse was visible anywhere in Mesoamerica, according to modern NASA calculations. The anomaly puzzled researchers until they examined weathering on the stone. The pillars had been moved twice, subtle shifts preserved as abrasion marks. When the original configuration was digitally restored, the sightline pointed instead to an eclipse that was visible in the region, but nearly a century earlier than the settlement's accepted founding date. Either the observatory was older than previously believed, or its designers preserved astronomical knowledge inherited from a vanished tradition. Nearby pottery and carbon-dated charcoal place activity at Cerro del Cielo as early as 800 BCE. Centuries before the rise of the major Maya observatories like Huashuctún. Yet the hilltop ring incorporates calculations considered advanced even in the classic period. Its builders recorded the oscillation of the moon, tracked eclipse seasons, and preserved a memory of a rare solar event they could not have witnessed themselves. Some scholars argue this was cultural inheritance, astronomy passed down orally across generations. Others note that the precision suggests a direct observational record, now lost with the disappearance of early Mesoamerican cultures. Perhaps the observatory did not predict an impossible eclipse. Perhaps it remembered one, long after its witnesses were gone. Inside a sealed mountain chamber, carved star clusters match a sky far older than the shrine itself. In 1921, a Himalayan survey led by Letkelmaid, Henry Maddox recorded a curious structure perched on a narrow ledge above India's Sutlej Gorge. A stone shrine built into the cliff face, barely large enough for a single visitor to enter. Local villagers called it the Sanctuary of the Silent Peak, a place said to hold the sky within its walls. When Maddox's team pried open the weathered wooden door, they found not statues or offerings, but a smooth inner chamber carved from a single block of mountain granite. At its center stood a circular basin polished to a mirror sheen. Above it, etched into the domed ceiling, was a constellation map unlike any previously documented in the region. The stars were arranged with mathematical precision, inset with tiny fragments of quartz that glimmered when torchlight struck them. Early photographs showed that the ceiling chart matched the night sky of circa 500 BCE, but with one striking difference: a bright marker where no star exists today. Astronomers later determined that the marker corresponded to the position of SN 185, an ancient supernova recorded by Chinese observers nearly 7 centuries after the shrine's estimated construction. The idea that the star once appeared there is consistent with modern astrophysical models, but no South Asian text mentions such an early observation. The shrine's builders seemed to know of a star that would only reveal itself centuries later. Further analysis revealed something else. When water was poured into the central basin, the quartz inlays reflected onto its surface, creating a perfect inverted sky map. The shrine, in effect, functioned as a projection device, turning starlight into a ritual display. Yet the entrance was positioned so that no actual starlight could reach the basin. The map was meant to be read by flame alone. Who carved this hidden chart, and why, remains debated. Some scholars argue it was a pilgrimage site for an early astronomical sect whose teachings did not survive. Others believe it was a royal sanctuary, its star chart recording omens or dynastic claims. But its most puzzling feature remains the supernova marker, an engraved point of light, placed centuries before the heavens confirmed it. Perhaps the shrine's builders were not predicting the sky. Perhaps they were remembering a star older than the written world. Explorers documented cave carvings, shaped like a prehistoric star map, before the entrance collapsed. In the isolated mountains of northern India lies a sandstone ridge known to locals as Roka Pahar, a place avoided for generations. At its base sits a narrow cave entrance, too small for a person to pass through, yet unmistakably shaped by human hands. In 1996, surveyors mapping the region inserted a micro camera into a natural crack beside the opening. What they found inside defied every expectation. An entire chamber covered in celestial carvings, etched into the walls with extraordinary precision. The images revealed constellations arranged not as they appear today, but as they would have looked thousands of years ago. Astronomers later noted that the star positions most closely resembled the night sky around c. 2200 BCE, including an accurate depiction of the Pleiades cluster and a distinctive alignment of Orion's belt. Even more baffling was a spiral etched near the northern wall, matching the slow wobble of Earth's axial precession, a concept not formally understood until the ancient Greeks. No tool marks were visible. The engravings appeared smooth, almost polished, as though carved with instruments stronger than bronze or iron. Attempts to widen the entrance for study were halted when geologists warned that the interior chamber could collapse if disturbed. The carvings were documented, but left untouched, sealed once again behind stone and silence. Local oral tradition speaks of the sky readers, a people who watched the heavens and wrote their warnings in stone. Some ethnographers link this legend to the disappearance of an early pastoral culture known from nearby rock shelters, though no definitive connection has been proven. What is certain is that the cave's star map predates the region's earliest known astronomical texts by nearly a millennium. Skeptics argue the chamber may have formed naturally, with explorers mistaking mineral patterns for human intent. But the symmetrical layout of the carvings, their alignment with true celestial coordinates, and the repeated appearance of recognizable constellations make coincidence difficult to defend. Why carve a star map into a chamber no one could fully enter? Was it meant for initiates, for preservation, or simply to outlast the world outside? Perhaps the cave was never meant to be visited. Perhaps it was meant only to be found when the stars realigned once more. A bronze disc from Europe shows the sun, moon, and stars arranged with stunning accuracy. In 1999, on a mist-covered hilltop in central Germany known as Middelburg, two treasure hunters uncovered a corroded bronze plate that seemed, at first glance, like a ceremonial shield. But when soil and age were gently brushed away, thin inlays of hammered gold began to emerge, forming a radiant sun, a crescent moon, and a cluster of 7 stars. What they found would become one of the most significant and perplexing artifacts of European prehistory, the bronze sky disk. Radiocarbon dating of nearby tools placed the disk's creation around 1600 BCE, deep in the Bronze Age, a period not typically associated with complex astronomy. Yet its golden symbols aligned with astonishing precision. The 7-star cluster matched the Pleiades, a constellation used in ancient planting cycles. 2 sweeping arcs on the sides marked the solstitial angles for the disk's latitude, allowing its user to track the longest and shortest days of the year. A 3rd arc at the bottom, added later, seemed to represent the horizon during a lunar standstill. This was not decoration. It was calculation. When researchers reconstructed the disk's original layout, they discovered it could function as a portable observatory, harmonizing lunar and solar calendars with an accuracy unmatched in Europe for another 3,000 years. Its purpose may have been agricultural, ritual, or political. Knowledge of the heavens was power, after all, but its precision remains difficult to explain within the known capabilities of the era. Even more mysterious is its material journey. The bronze originated from Central Europe, but the gold used for the celestial inlays came from the Carpathian region, hundreds of miles away. Its craftsmanship suggests collaboration across cultures, hinting at a network of Bronze Age knowledge far broader than once believed. To some archaeologists, the disk represents a forgotten scientific tradition, an early European sky lore that vanished long before written history. To others, it is evidence of knowledge exchange between civilizations whose interactions are only now being understood. What is clear is this: long before the word astronomy existed, Someone watched the sky with extraordinary discipline, and they left behind a map, not of stars alone, but of a world that understood far more than we remember.
Hi,
A corroded bronze device recovered from a shipwreck revealed complex gearwork, capable of predicting the sky. In the spring of 1900, sponge divers off the Greek island of Antikythera descended into a shipwreck that had slept for 2,000 years. Amid bronze statues and amphorae, they pulled from the seafloor a corroded lump of metal, no larger than a shoebox. At first, it seemed worthless, just encrusted bronze fused by time. But when light struck a fractured edge, tiny gear teeth gleamed from within. It took decades to understand what they had found. The Antikythera Mechanism, as it came to be called, was revealed by X-ray imaging in the 1950s to contain a complex arrangement of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, some with tooth counts calculated to track the movements of the moon, sun, and planets with astonishing precision. Written inscriptions described cycles of eclipses and celestial events, mathematics so exact it rivaled 18th century clockwork. Historians dated the wreck to around 100 BCE, at least a millennium before such technology should have existed. Ancient Greece was known for philosophy, not for fine-toothed gears or astronomical computers. Yet the device could predict solar and lunar eclipses, the positions of Mercury and Venus, even the timing of the Olympic Games. It wasn't symbolic art, it was engineering. No other mechanism of comparable complexity would appear again until the mechanical clocks of Renaissance Europe. Scholars like Derek J. DeSolla Price called it the world's first analog computer, while others suggested it might be a lost descendant of a greater, forgotten science. Fragments hint that it was part of a wider tradition, one that vanished when the Library of Alexandria burned and centuries of knowledge fell into silence. Was it the invention of a singular genius? Perhaps a student of Archimedes, or a relic of a technological lineage erased by time? The Antikythera Mechanism refuses to fit within the timeline we know. It reminds us that history's record is not complete, it is what survived. And sometimes, what survives is just enough to show us how much we've forgotten. Hi. In 1938, during a routine excavation at Kujut Rabu, a mound near Baghdad, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig uncovered a small clay jar sealed with asphalt. Inside it lay a copper cylinder wrapped around an iron rod, both corroded yet unmistakably deliberate in their design. It looked like a vessel, but something about it resisted that explanation. When Koenig examined the residue within, he found traces of an acidic compound, vinegar or grape juice, that could act as an electrolyte. Intrigued, researchers later built replicas. When filled with acid and connected by wires, these ancient jars generated electricity, tiny but measurable, around 1 to 2 volts. The discovery stunned historians. Electricity was thought to have been mastered only in the modern industrial age, yet these jars dated to the Parthian period, nearly 2,000 years earlier. At least a dozen similar artifacts have since been found across Iraq, each crafted in the same proportions. No contemporary writings describe their use. No diagrams explain their design, and yet their functionality is undeniable. They were not myth, they were real. Objects of copper, iron, and clay that worked as primitive galvanic cells. Some scientists believe they were used to electroplate gold and silver onto decorative items, a technique that would explain certain inexplicably uniform coatings found on ancient artifacts. Others propose a more ritual purpose, jars that produced mild shocks to imitate divine power during temple ceremonies. Whatever their function, they reveal an understanding of chemical energy far ahead of recorded history. The Iraq Museum safeguarded the surviving examples until the 2003 invasion, when many were looted or destroyed, taking their context with them. What remains are photographs, lab notes, and one enduring question. If ancient artisans truly harnessed electricity, then invention may not always be discovery, but rediscovery. Perhaps the spark that lit our modern world was first struck long before we learned to name it. Hi. In 1935, a Franco-Egyptian survey team, mapping caravan routes west of Abu, Ballas discovered a row of sandstone pillars half buried in the dunes. They stood in a perfect arc facing the horizon, each carved with weathered inscriptions. At first, the team assumed they were simple, boundary markers, until epigrapher Emile Devernas noticed something strange. Each pillar bore the name of a different ancient ruler, none belonging to the same kingdom or the same century. They came from Kush, Egypt, Nabatea, and even distant Dadan, 9 kings whose reigns never overlapped in life, yet stood together in stone. The inscriptions were arranged not chronologically, but mathematically. Between each royal name was a sequence of short strokes and dots. When Davernus copied the marks into his notebook, he realized they matched a numerical progression, one that corresponded to a 3,600-year astronomical cycle known only from later Mesopotamian tablets. How desert stonemasons in the Western Sahara acquired such knowledge remains unexplained. Further examination revealed something even more intriguing. The kings' names represented rulers, whose reigns were marked by unusual celestial events, a comet in 164 BCE, a meteor fall recorded in Kushite annals, a solar eclipse in 763 BCE. When the pillars' positions were plotted, they formed a giant curve that mirrored the path of a long-period comet. Modern astronomers estimate last passed near Earth thousands of years ago. Local Bedouin oral tradition calls the formation Qalam al-Muluk, the king's cipher. Elders say it marks a time when the desert sky turned red for a night, and travelers spoke of omens written in the heavens. No historical text describes such an event, yet the pillars silently point to it with geometric precision. Some scholars argue the cipher was a late inscription created by passing scribes, but erosion patterns suggest the carvings are far older than their recorded kings. Others believe the site was an ancient archive, an attempt to preserve memory through alignment, not parchment. Why gather 9 rulers separated by centuries? Why encode their reigns within a cosmic cycle no known desert culture tracked? Perhaps the builders saw patterns the rest of the world forgot to record, or perhaps they believed that history, like the sky, speaks in intervals, and the cipher was their way of warning those who would one day understand. Across continents and centuries, these discoveries remind us that ancient knowledge was rarely simple and never linear. Some of it survived in stone, some in metal, and some in codes we're only beginning to understand. Hi, it's Chini. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe to get notified when a new story drops. It's also the best way to support our channel.